How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Foggins Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to the double movie review, aka After I Saw review video for today. This time for this new episode for the series, this is going to be my review on two films that came out last year in 2021, which one of them is a thriller and the other is a sci-fi film. So I'm going to kick off with the first one, which is a thriller film, and that is Till Death. This is directed by S.K. Dale, and this is his very first film as director, and stars Megan Fox as this woman named Emma, who is in a loveless relationship with her husband. But for her husband, he basically invites her to this lake house area home in the middle of nowhere. And for Emma, she feels like her love life is going back to the way it used to be until she finds out the next day she is handcuffed to her husband, who has just recently committed suicide by shooting himself in the head. And for Emma, she basically has to fight to basically, figure out this whole situation and trying to basically fight for her life, and hopefully she can escape this lake house area while she's handcuffed to her dead husband. But what's also worse, there are these two men who are trying to break into a home to basically rob something in the house. So see Emma basically trying to basically escape from these two men, and hopefully she can escape this lake house area home. So that's pretty much the story of Till Death. Now this one did look pretty interesting to me since I saw a few people's reviews of this film. Like, I did hear this film did get positive reviews when it came out, and after hearing a few people's reviews, I was like, I should give this one a go because this is a thriller, and I do tend to enjoy thrillers. And we've had some thrillers like this before in the past, which some of them have been pretty good, but for the most recent ones that we begin, that's kind of like this. Some of them haven't been good lately over recent years. But when I think of a film that's kind of like this, the only one I can only think of straight away in my head like this is Panic Room starring Jodie Foster, which I think is a really awesome movie. And if you guys never seen that film, I'd highly recommend check out that film if you've never seen it before. And for Megan Fox, who's the star of the film, I think she's a talented actress. Even though for her most early roles, some people have been kind of mixed with her performances. Like in the first two Transformers films, which her performance in those two movies, they're certainly not that great. Well, the first film she wasn't all that great, but the second one I thought she was much better in that film. Even though for that sequel I didn't like that sequel. But after those films, I thought she gave a really good performance in one really underrated movie, which I really like, even though critics weren't a fan of it, and that is Jennifer's Body, which I enjoyed that film, and I thought she was really good in that movie. And after that film, she went to do the two live-action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles films, the Michael Bay produced ones, which they're certainly not that great. And I haven't seen her in much films after I've seen her in those movies and all of that. But when I heard people were talking about her in this movie, I was like, I should give this one a go. So I did watch this movie at home last year. And after watching this whole movie, I gotta say, I can definitely tell you guys that I had a great time with Till Death. This was a great thriller here. And I can also say this is definitely one of Megan Fox's best performances I've ever seen in a movie in quite a while here. Yep, like I said, this is definitely gotta be one of Megan Fox's best performances here because she is really good in this movie as the main protagonist. And I found her character development really well complex and all that, and also really flawed because there was not a single flaw of her character to basically put me off guard while I was watching it. Because, when we're introduced to a character, she's not all that perfect until once she soon starts to realize what's going on, she starts to get more better and better. And I found that her character development very, very well complex, and I found myself really invested with and really rooting with while I was watching this movie along the way. And as for the actors in the film, I thought their performances were pretty good as well, and also their character development as well was pretty well complex and all that. And it's mostly due to the writing, because the writing in this film is very well written and very well complex for the most part. And the direction by S.K. Dale, which again, this is his very first film as director. He did a really great job directing this film. There's some great camera techniques he used in the film, like there's some dolly shots and some camera movements and all that, which nowadays we don't really get to see those much in any movies we get nowadays. But it was great to see all that in this film, which again, I thought S.K. Dale did a great job of directing this film, for directing the intense sequences and all that. That really gets you on the edge of your seat and all that. And for the story of the film, it is pretty basic, really, for a film like this. Even though I did find this one really well. I did find myself really invested with and really rooting with while I was watching this film along the way. Mostly due to having a very likable, interesting main protagonist in the film. Even though there are some story inconsistencies, issues, and all that, and some logical questions that can be a bit of a distraction while you watch this film. That's one of the weakest aspects I have with the film. And another weak aspect I do have with this movie is that there are some scenes in the film, since this is a thriller where it's basically about a character, he or she, trying to survive a situation that she's facing, if it's either a robbery or anything at all. There are some scenes where you feel like the character could have done this and all that, which can be a bit of a distraction and all that. And it was a bit like for me where I was like, you just could have done that. That was another weak aspect I had with the film. But in the end, guys, Till Death, I had a great time with this one. And like I said, this definitely got to be one of Megan Fox's best performance in a while since the Transformers films. And if you're a fan of like these kind of thrillers, like a character who's trying to survive a situation or anything like that, or you're a fan of Megan Fox as an actress, this is definitely one you don't want to miss out. And if you missed your chance to see this last year, it is available to stream on any app of your choice. So that's pretty much all I say about Till Death. I'm gonna give Till Death 4 out of 5. Now let's move on to Voyagers. Now Voyagers is a sci-fi film written and directed by Neil Berger, the man behind Divergent, The Illusionist, and Limitless, and tells the story of this teenage crew who are in this multi-generational spaceship, and they find out about their emotions are being suppressed due to a responsible drug that makes their emotions suppressed. And once they stop taking the drug, they find themselves plunged into a chaotic abyss, and basically see them trying to fight for survival and all that. So that's pretty much the story of Voyagers. Now, this one also did look pretty interesting to me since this is a sci-fi film, and I'm a huge fan of the sci-fi genre. It's one of my favorite genres when it comes to movies. And for the director Neil Berger, like I said, he's made a few sci-fi films before in the past, namely the first Divergent movie, which does get pretty much mixed responses from a few people. I think it's overall a decent movie. And he also made Limitless, which I have not seen, starring Bradley Cooper and Robert De Niro. And he has made a few other movies outside of that genre, like some drama films, namely The Illusionist, starring Edward Norton, which I haven't seen, but I've heard good things about it. And like I said, this one did look interesting to me because, like I said, it's in the sci-fi genre, and it has a talented director and has some talented names who are in this film. Like, you've got Ty Sheridan from Ready Player One and the X-Men movies, like X-Men Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix. You also have Fionn Whitehead from Dunkirk, which I really love Dunkirk. Lily Rose Depp, who was in Tusk, and one of my favorite Irish actors, Colin Farrell, from tons of things like Imbruge, Seven Psychopaths, and The Batman. So, and I never saw the trailer for this film, and this film really didn't play much in cinemas in my area. This was only released at home and all that, and I didn't watch this last year because I did miss out, but I decided to check this out this year so I can catch up on other movies I did miss that I never got a chance to see last year and all that. So I did watch this at home of this year, and after watching this movie, unfortunately, this movie overall wasn't all that great, and I would say this is definitely one of my least favorite films of 2021 here. But I wouldn't say it's the absolute #1 worst, but this still is not one of my favorites of 2021 because overall this film, I found this film to pretty much being a mess of a movie here. But there are some little aspects of the film I did like while I was watching it. Like, the concept for the film I thought was pretty creative and all that. But for the execution, though, for its concept for this film, I found it really messy and all that, which I found that very disappointing. And while there are some human natures in the film, which there are actually some good human natures here and there in this film, which I thought were handled pretty well. But there are some other human natures here and there in this film that I kind of felt was a bit messy and all that due to its whole execution of the whole concept for the film. And there are some directing moments in the film, which isn't too bad. Like, there are some entertaining sequences here and there where we see some like thrilling, tense moments in the ship and all that with the characters. There are some nice moments of that, but there are some other directing moments in the film I did find also not that great, which is mostly due to the editing in the film and all that. It's mostly towards the final act of the film. Well, the first 2 acts of the film I thought wasn't too bad. The third act of the film I found it really predictable, really, for what's going to happen and all that, which I can obviously knew where I was going and all that while I was watching this movie and all that while I was watching this at home. And when it comes to the characters in this movie, the characters in the film weren't too bad. I just for the whole development for this movie, I kind of felt glanced over, really, and wasn't, and it didn't really give much. It just didn't give much at all in this film. But the performances in the film I thought was pretty solid enough. Like, like I said, you got Ty Sheridan, Fionn Whitehead, Lily Rose Depp, and Colin Farrell. I thought their performances in the film were pretty solid enough, but for other characters in the film, I kind of felt their performances felt really unrealistic and all that, which kind of took me off guard while I was watching the film and all that. Because for the other characters in the film, they didn't really have to do much in this film and all that, which I kind of found a bit of a distraction, really. And again, it did took me off guard while I was watching the film and all that. So overall, in the end, guys, Voyagers, yeah, unfortunately, this film overall wasn't that great. But I wouldn't say it's one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. It is still one of the worst films I've seen in 2021. And it's overall not one of Neil Berger's best films. But if you're a fan of this director, or you're a fan of the cast, or anything like that, or you're a fan of these kind of sci-fi films, this may be a cup of tea for you. But for me, in all honesty, I don't really recommend this film in the slightest. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Voyagers. I'm going to give Voyagers 1.5 out of 5. Thank you guys so much for watching for my double A after I saw review on both Till Death and Voyagers. And let me know what you think of both of these films if you have seen this already. I've just recently checked out both of these films for the first time. For Till Death, did you have a great time with this, or is this not really a cup of tea? And for Voyagers, did you have a blast with this, or are you very disappointed with this? As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.